Hello, welcome along to a special preview of Tuesday, day one of glorious Goodwood as the World Pool travels to Sussex. The idyllic track that it is, where the quality on the track meets the beautiful scenery around. Let's have a look at the very first race on this Tuesday. It is a 2,000 metre big field handicap, 18 declared, and all tracks are unique, but none more so than Goodwood. They're going to climb and then turn right and dash down towards that winning post in front of the pack stands. And we'll find out which of the 18 it is who comes out on top. We've got the experts alongside to preview. They're headed by Sabuska. Enfjar, very interesting winner indeed. A real gain, track of time. Dual identity we'll be talking about. Aryan Power is a capable horse on his best days, to say the least. Over the page, with their ratings alongside Killybegs Warrior, Tony Montana, Wadeka Gomez, down to Stay Well and Loyal Touch. Delighted to say, as ever, John Blance and Graham Cunningham alongside to steer us through the form, and that includes Graham Enfjar, his success at York last time. He's getting better and better. Gelded, hooded, better than ever this season. Didn't progress last autumn, but he was really good at Chelmsford, and even better here. Red-hot John Smith's Cup. He takes command entering the final furlong and wins with authority. He's there in blue, speaking for himself. Watch the horse towards the back and the blue in the white cap. That is Dual Identity, and he was the hard luck story in the race. Want you to keep a close eye on him. He's the one who could be capable of much better. But this horse has turned out pretty quickly, Enfjar. He's 4 from 7, John, and he's thriving.
He is, yeah. He's got gate 13. Looking at that map there, you'd think that low numbers would be favoured in this race, but historically they're not, or an outside draw is not a problem. Tony Montana, I was there at Windsor when he won 3 starts ago. It was a nice performance. Then he blew out at Ascot. There in the John Smith's Cup, he was too far back in the run for his normal run style as well. I've got him going very well too at a price. We can talk about Dual Identity. Let's have a look at one of his Sandown performances, John, in recent times. Prior to that run at York, this is a couple of starts back in June. Well, he thrives off a strong gallop, this horse, and he got that on this particular day. It was also softish ground. He weaves his way through very well. He's clearly got a very strong chance in this. Uzo runs in this contest as well. But for me, Dual Identity's run style, a little bit too conservative or too far back in the run to be really potent here at Goodwood.
No, I disagree. I know he's done a lot of his best performances at Sandown, but if he gets a good gallop, I think he's effective for any type of track. And that York performance on a dead flat circuit, he would have been right up close behind the placed horses with a clear run. OK. It's a big field. Graham, when you look at recent winners of this race, you've got 25 to 1, 14 to 1, 33 to 1 last year. Are you looking at a potential shock angle or not? I don't think it'd be a major shock, Nick, but I am looking at Dual Identity to give us a good run at a big price here. I think he's better, much better than he showed at York. Him on top of number 2, Enfjar, 13, Wadeka Gomez, who's been in good form for a while now on the all-weather, and Stay Well, who's been running pretty close up behind Enfjar and Wadeka Gomez at Chelmsford. So 8, 2, 13 and 17 for me in race 1.
OK. John, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tony Montana on top. I think he'll get the race run to suit better than he did at York last time. Enfjar, Graham dealt with all the chance that horse has. He should go very well indeed. Uzo ran well in the Golden Mile here last year. He's got a bit more weight to carry this time round, but I think he can go well too. And Wadeka Gomez, not sure he'll get a solo out in front, but he might be one of the horses on speed. He might be difficult to overhaul in the latter stages, so he might cling on for a place. But Tony on top for me. OK, I'm going to go for Enfjar. He's rapidly improving. They thought he was very good last year. I think he's making up into a crack performer. Number 2, Enfjar, to win race 1 for me. Race 2, this big World Pool day at Goodwood is the HKJC Vintage Stakes. It's a Group 2 race. The World Pool Vintage Stakes, it's a Group 2 race for the 2-year-olds. It's got a very good roll of honour. The likes in recent years of Galileo Gold, Highland Reel, Expert Eye, all winners of this particular race. This is the course map that the 2-year-olds will have to take in. Huge prize money on offer, 8 runners. And we'll find out at the end of the 1,400 metres whose name is on top. Right, and Outlaw's Grace is number 1 back from France. Amory City for Godolphin. They've got Arabian Sun, Cool Hoof, Luke, Electrolyte, the Parthenon. We hope to see him. Tiger Mask, Wolf of Badenoch. They are your 8 in 2024. Now, I mentioned the Parthenon, Graham. The Parthenon, extremely famous landmark. Very well-bred horse. We haven't seen a lot of him recently, though.
No, he's missed a couple of races. And I'm not sure how good he is. I really don't have a strong handle on this race at all. When we look at the Parthenon winning a maiden race at Gorham Park, he does it, and he does it in pretty workmanlike style. driven out quite firmly. Horse he beat was a newcomer, and he was 4-11 on this day. So he's an Aidan O'Brien horse. He's very old bred by Kingman. You have to respect him. But he didn't win this race in the manner of a potential star. So at the moment, I'm a little bit in the dark. I've put him on my numbers, but I'm not quite sure how good he is, John. What do you think?
Yeah, it was a slow time figure. There's nothing to get too excited about from a figures perspective whatsoever. But he probably will be sort of just off what might be quite a strong gallop here. So if he is a good horse, the way the race will be run should bring the best out of him.
The 2 races he's missed were because the ground was perceived to be too soft. It's good to soft as we speak on Sunday, but the weather forecast is good. It should dry up by the first day.
OK, we'll hope to see the Parthenon this time around. And Outlaw's Grace we have seen twice. John Blance, let's get the thoughts of you on this horse. He's been to France since this day, but the dogs were barking going into the debut. He was heavily backed at Salisbury and he didn't let anyone down.
Yeah, he did the job in a race where they were accelerating out in front of him as well, so he's obviously produced a good turn of foot to win this because it was a fairly muddling pace early doors. He's gotten then to France on pretty soft ground. The weather forecast for this week is pretty good. They shouldn't have any problems as far as soft in the ground is concerned. So from that perspective, they can go well. But another one who'll probably press the pace and might just set it up for others.
We're dancing in the dark to a certain extent, but you look at Trainer's record.
Yeah.
Hannon Stable has got a very good record in this Olympic Glory, Tourmore, Hartem last year. So they know what's needed to win this race.
I completely see that. Let's talk about Cool Hoof Luke winning at Chelmsford. Graham has since gone on to finish Royal Ascot 4th, and in the context of the price of the first 3 was quite a short price at 40-1.
Yeah, it's the Ascot form that gives him a solid chance here. He does the job in quite willing, honest fashion at Chelmsford. He definitely took a step forward, up with the pace from the start in the Coventry, gave a good kick and ran on really well until collared late in the piece. I think he'll stay the extra furlong and I think he'll go well, John.
Yeah, I think he'll be the speed of the speed here. He'll be out in front in the early stages. He might not necessarily stick around to win the race, but I think he'll be in for a place.
Electrolyte, who has already beaten him, also runs in this race, finished second that day at Royal Ascot. So it's a muddling race. There are only 8 of them, but would you be too quick to rule out any of them?
No, absolutely not. I'm struggling to find a strong bet here. I'm going to go with Cool Hoof Luke on top. One horse we haven't mentioned is Wolf of Badenoch. Again, you're looking for feel angles. He's by Peter Tubo, who won this race a few years ago. He's trained by Hugo Palmer, who trained Galileo Gold to win this race. And he quickened up really well from the rear at Donny first time. So I think he'll win well. 4 and 8 on top with 1 and 6 as backup. But unusually for me, chaps, in a race like this, normally my bread and butter, I don't have a real strong view.
OK, John, what about you?
Yeah, it's a real head-scratcher. I'm going to go with Electrolyte, though. It wasn't a very good run in the July Stakes at Newmarket.
No.
They were all sort of taken out of their comfort zone a little bit pace-wise in that contest, I thought. The way he ran in the Coventry Stakes behind Bashabar was a pretty good effort, really, in terms of the way the race turned out as well. I think he's just going to settle in behind what I talked about here being a strong pace. So I think Electrolyte at the current prices. The Parthenon in for second. Cool Hoof Look in for third. And Aomori City, who ran in that July Stakes as well, in for fourth. But like Graham, it's a confusing little race.
It is just that, and given that in mind, I'm going to be taking a chance on Arabian Sun, who didn't really light it up when winning at Salisbury on start 2, but there are a couple of winners to already come out of that race. He's got work to do to win this, but any of them could. So Arabian Sun for me, tentatively to win race 2. Best of luck, whatever you're going for. Race 3 is one of the feature races of the day. It is the HKJC World Pool Lennox Stakes. It's run over 1,400 metres. Same track and trip as the 2-year-olds took in race 2, but this is for the older horses. It's a Group 2 race, so once again, no difference with the course map that we showed you for race 2. A couple of these know this very well indeed, not least the dual recent winner of the race, Kinross, who didn't win it 2 years ago, but either side of that, he won it in 2021 and 2023, or looked to win it in 2024. Audience, already a Group 1 winner this year, has got weight to give away. Art Power, rare run at the trip. English Oak, very impressive at Ascot. Kinross mentioned. Noble Dynasty's doing well at the moment. Pogo, Tiber Flow, and Chicago Critic, who comes across from Ireland. Should we talk about Kinross, because he deserves plenty of respect, as ever in this race?
Yeah, Sir Dancelot won this twice. Nair won this twice. Kinross is bidding to win it for a third time. This is 12 months ago. The mercurial and slightly difficult audience is there in red, beginning to falter. Kinross, he's been really good at Goodwood several years running. I think he was only beaten narrowly 2 years ago, so he could be bidding for a 4-timer with a bit more luck. And he battles on well under Frankie Dettori. I think this horse is missing Mr. Dettori, perhaps more than some, because this season he's run one pretty good race at Newcastle and one ordinary race in the July Cup last time. The road to victory in this year's Lennox runs through Kinross, but I'm not sure he's quite the horse he was this time last year. Last August at York, John, he was very good.
He certainly was, and that was on quite fast ground, so he's versatile as far as the underfoot conditions are concerned. This race is just littered with horses that run well, and it not only was Graham mentioning those two-time winners, but horses like Soudois been placed 3 times, and Breton Rock as well, so it's a race that really does lend itself to those that keep coming back. As I said before, on fastish ground, this was a good effort. Yes, it was a pretty dull performance in the July Cup as a prep race for this last time, but I've still got him on top. There are 1 or 2 unexposed types that are going to be difficult to fend off here, but they'll all have to go well to beat this fella.
Should mention audience there, splitting Kinross and Sandrine. Sandrine, incidentally, was the horse who beat Kinross in this race a couple of years ago. Audience is a good horse. We know that from his Lockage win, but he has a £5 penalty and he has plenty of potential company on the front end on Tuesday.
Let's have a look at an up-and-comer, English Oak, who turned a very competitive handicap at Royal Ascot last time into a bit of a procession. That was the race after, Graham, an avalanche of cash came his way to win at Haydock.
Yeah, this was a Haydock handicap from a mark of 90. And bookmakers couldn't keep the punters off him this day, and it was dial the distance. He bolted up. He went to Royal Ascot fancied for a big 1,400-metre handicap, John. Got a perfect lead in a strongly run race up the rail, and it was a similar story. He is thriving at the moment.
Yeah, and the Wathnan boys got the old chequebook out after this, didn't they? And brought him for a pretty penny. Billy Joe didn't necessarily frank the form the other day at Ascot.
But Noble Dynasty was in behind him.
Well, he was, yes.
Not Noble Dynasty, Northern Express. Yeah.
Northern Express, who, of course, went on to win. So he pays your money, he takes your choice there. But he's very, very progressive, this horse. Gate 4, he'll just settle up in behind the pace, possibly set by the likes of Audience, Art Power and Pogo. So I think he'll go very well, English Oak.
And speaking of Noble Dynasty, Nick.
Yeah, you teed it up beautifully. I mean, you've talked about horses who have beaten each other in this race in years gone by. Noble Dynasty's already beaten English Oak earlier this season. We can see Noble Dynasty last time out beating quite a good yardstick. He's more than just a good yardstick in Nostrum, John. He's having a good time of things this year.
He is, yeah. Really good gate speed in this contest. English Oak, in terms of speed figures, has definitely progressed to a slightly higher level than this, but Noble Dynasty has, got the right to be mentioned in the same dispatches. So I think he's going to go well, yeah.
Talk about a late return on your investment. It was 2019 when Godolphin paid 3.6 million guineas, the highest price yearling in Europe at the time. And this was a good performance. He beat smart horses. He ties in with English Oak. John's right, English Oak has come on a pace since Newmarket in the spring, but it's there in black and white that Noble Dynasty, I think, gave him £15 and a pretty decisive beating. 2 up-and-comers, English Oak, Noble Dynasty, one way or another, they'll have a big say, I think.
Let's have a look at Tiber Flow. It could have been disaster 2 starts ago. It almost was, John, at York, the Duke of York Clipper Stakes. Ironic race title when you consider what happened to the horse in the run. But he did prove his well-being just a few weeks later at Haydock. Yeah,
beating Sirona, who's, of course, a pretty good yardstick from a form perspective. I'm slightly concerned about Tiber Flow, Gate 1, hold-up style of running here. I think he might just get into a position which is not going to be ideal. Generally speaking, the Lennox Stakes is won by horses mid-division or further forward. This guy could be last in the early stages. That might make it tricky for him.
John, we do have Audience. We have Art Power, a very fast 6-furlong horse. Noble Dynasty's ridden handy, so is Pogo, so it should be a truly run race.
Well, and those 2 that you mentioned, in fairness to them, in the last year or so, Art Power, I know it's a bit far for him, and Audience has got the penalty, but they are 2 recent Group 1 winners in the context of this race. It's difficult whichever way you look at it.
I think Audience is definitely a better horse than he was 12 months ago when he blew out in this race, so he sneaks into my numbers, Audience, definitely.
Well, he's £5 clear on rating, so we shall see. Graham, what about you?
5, 3, 4, 7. Kinross is a crackerjack horse, but I just wonder whether the up-and-comers might have the edge here. Going for Noble Dynasty, hefty price tag, never been better than he is at the moment. His old rival, English Oak for second, Kinross and Tiber Flow. 5, 3, 4 and 7 for the Lennox.
John.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kinross on top as well. I think he's got a very good chance to win it for a third time. Going to go with the 3 in there for second English Oak, 1 Audience in for third, and Noble Dynasty there in for fourth. 4, 3, 1 and 5.
So I think it's almost ridiculous doing it the way that we're talking about this horse. English Oak, the lowest rated in the field, but this is his opportunity to show what he can do in group company. I think he'll win it. Number 3, English Oak, for me to win the Lennox. It's a pulsating race. Do not miss it. Race 3 at Goodwood this Tuesday. This Tuesday then, this big World Pool Day at the Qatar Goodwood Festival. It's the big race, race 4, which is the Goodwood Cup. It's for the stayers. It is the Group 1 race on the day, and it's run over the distinctive track and trip. Look at this, the way they have to turn. You don't get this anywhere else in the world. 3,200 metres. You're going to start with brilliant shots of the grandstand in the background. They're going to go away from us and turn right before going under the trees on that far side, back down towards the winning post. And these are your 7 declared runners for it in 2024. Al Kareem, Coltrane, Gregory, Kyprios, the staff there, Sweet William, Tashkan, and good old boy Trushan. Trushan, who won it in 2021. Kyprios won it 2 years ago. And Graham, he'll be back to try and win it again. It's going to be difficult to stop him, isn't it?
Yeah, he's back from a serious injury and he's back pretty much as good as ever. We're going to wind the clock back to 2022. This is one of the best staying races I've seen in recent years. And on this day, Kyprios was the Kingslayer because he was thwarting Stradivarius's bid for, was it a 5th consecutive Goodwood Cup? A terrific race. Right. Trushan on the near side under Holly Doyle, Stradivarius under Frankie on the far side, Ryan Moore in full flow on Kyprios. Terrific race, John.
Certainly was. I absolutely agree with you. It was one of the best staying races, certainly of recent years. Coltrane finishing there in 4th as well, of course, reopposes, but on the strict interpretation of that form, there's quite a bit to find.
It's been a long road back after a lengthy injury break for Kyprios. Aidan O'Brien said he never thought he'd get him back to race. Said he had to learn to walk again. When he was on a treadmill for the first time, he had to have bails on either side to stop him falling over. Built up gradually with a couple of wins in minor company or listed useful company, including this race at Leopardstown, and back to Ascot last time for the Gold Cup. He was pretty much as good as ever, John.
He was. He beat his old rival Trawlerman. Of course, they'd had a big old stoush in the Champion Stayers in the autumn as well. So it was a terrific race. Might have been slightly helped by Keys Chorister getting lit up mid-race and just maybe taking Trawlerman out of his comfort zone, but that would be to nitpick. Kyprios probably won pretty fair and square, and he's going to be desperately tough to beat.
And a big plus point for Kyprios this Tuesday is Trawlerman isn't here, and for the moment he looks the best of the Gosden stayers, but Sweet William and Gregory are back for another crack.
Yeah, they are the 2 who represent Clare Haven, stablemates of Trawlerman. Let's have a look at Sweet William. Sweet William, the win at Sandown earlier in the season, he just about got there. Very good ride on the day. Trushan was also in the lineup, John.
Yeah, he'll be he'll be weighted with at the rear of the field, and he'll try and pounce late. It's not always the ideal run style in the Goodwood Cup if you go back through recent renewals of it, and also he's just got a bit of bare form to find with Kyprios on their most recent meeting. So for me, he's a good thing to be in the numbers, this horse, but to overhaul Kyprios is a big ask.
Absolutely, he's got half a dozen lengths or so to find, and he never really promised to land a major block. He was visored for the first time this day. He's a good quality, consistent stayer, and he looks booked for a place again. Yeah,
so we can have a look at the old boy, Trushan, who won earlier this month. He's probably not as good as he was, Graham, these days, but he's been a hell of a yardstick.
He's still good. He's 8 years of age. He's won 16 of 29. He was 3rd in the Goodwood Cup on good ground in 2022. He bounced back here at Sandown with plenty of give underfoot. I think we might be in for another will he, won't he run, John, and that's the thing that concerns me for Trushan.
Yeah, the weather forecast is un-Trushan-like for Glorious Goodwood, whereas earlier on in this summer, Trushan fans would have been very happy with all the rain that we've had. This is just at listed level. He probably retains most of his ability, but it's going to be tough if he turns up with the forecast sunshine.
Yeah, he's, £10 lower than he officially was rated once upon a time. And I guess back in the day, the pantomime or the soap opera was he was near enough favourite when he was being pulled out. These days, he's going to be 5th or 6th in the market. Right, let's have a look at last year's running of this race. Graham, I was talking to you earlier and mentioned that I'm sure those at Goodwood that week don't reflect on 2023 too kindly, because the sun didn't shine at all. All those connected with Quickthorn enjoyed it. He got away from them and won the big race. Yeah. Coltrane plugged on for 3rd.
The weather was foul and Tom Marquand stole away with the Goodwood Cup, and people like Oisin Murphy on Coltrane on the far rail and 1 or 2 others were caught severely napping. This was a pretty good run from Coltrane in the circumstances, John. He's a horse I really like, but he didn't quite fire his best shot in the Ascot Gold Cup last time.
No, he didn't, and I was slightly disappointed with that. I thought he'd run better at the Royal Meeting. He's been third in this and he's been fourth in this, but he's got plenty to find with Kyprios. He's in the minor money for me, but he's not going to win.
There was quite a bit of talk about Gregory going into Royal Ascot, John, last time out. We can see him at York. He is a stayer who's only had 7 runs in his life. Is there a lot more to come?
Well, there would need to be beating Kyprios. He was well beaten, of course, by him in the Ascot Gold Cup last time. He was a winner of a Queen's Vase. He's run well at Goodwood in the past, but again, there's plenty to find on all known form. And yeah, a good 3-year-old who's yet to really prove what level he's at as an older horse.
He went out like a light in the Gold Cup. I thought he'd run well that day, so I have to give him a pass on that. Based on this performance, he has trained on, and I hope and think that he should run much better on Tuesday.
Right then, the headline act of the whole day is Kyprios. Is he on top in your numbers?
He is. It's stating the obvious, but he is the obvious one. All the rest have to improve to beat him. I am working on the basis that fast ground or hot weather might scupper Trushan and rule him out. So I'm going to go 4-2-5-3, Kyprios, Coltrane, Sweet William, Gregory in the Goodwood Cup.
John Blance.
It's not often that myself and Graham have exactly the same numbers in exactly the same order, but we're going to be doing that. It's interesting to see what kind of price Kyprios goes off in the Whirlpool with the Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore thing as well. He might still be a case of an odds-on shot who's good value. We'll see Coltrane in for second, Sweet William for third, and Gregory for fourth. OK, it's Kyprios on top for me as well. Team Steam is the obvious choice in the race, and I expect him to show his class on Tuesday. Race 5 on Tuesday, this Whirlpool Day at Goodwood, is a 1,000-metre dash for the handicappers. This will be fast and furious. Have a look at the course track that they're going to take right in front of the stands. Very attractive backdrop as well, the stone walls. It's quaintly British. Looking forward to it. Right, 13 declared runners. Democracy Dilemma's there. Collateral, Wallbank's very fast. One Night Stand, JM Jungle, Novello, Tattersall, Rockin' Ends to be ridden by that man Vincent Ho for trainer Tom Clover. Miss Attitude. There's a horse called Lord Ridderford who's got a reasonable record at Goodwood in this race. Danger Alert is there as well. They are your runners for 2024. And Graham, whether it's been 2021, 22, 23, it's been the same result. Lord Ridderford just wins this race. Yeah,
I don't need to speak here. Just dig out what I said last year and the year before. He's not been in much form prior to this, but he absolutely blossoms when he goes back to Goodwood. This was softish ground, perfect run through, bolted up John, and after some dull performances, he's back to a winnable mark again, the Lord. Yeah, the noble Lord indeed. But Gate 2 this year, which will be slightly trickier. It's not a massively draw-dependent race, but I would probably prefer for the old boy to have a high number, and he's out there in 2 this time round.
He won in 2 years ago.
I did, yes, I know.
I think wherever you put him, he could do a 6 furlong race and probably still win it.
But that was the absolutely perfect run through that he got. If he wins this time round, they'll be building a statue to him.
John, he's got quite a good stablemate as well in the race in the form of JM Jungle, who, like Lord Ridderford, for all that he's got a couple still to find on his illustrious stablemate, has won at Goodwood.
He has, yeah, which is a very important piece of form. And he's just a lovely horse, this fella. He's got great gate speed. He travels really well through his races. Jason Hart gets on really well with him. And on the evidence of this run, Graham, he's not quite as much on the speed as he used to be. He just has that little bit more conservatism in the run now. I think he's going to have it beautifully set up for him. Bonny horse. Keep an eye on the horse second from right. Just beginning to falter in the white sleeves, Democracy Dilemma. He's really quick, and the soft ground probably blunted his Goodwood speed last year. But 2 key horses, JM Jungle winning and Democracy Dilemma in 6 that day.
JM Jungle has since been to Bahrain, and he's since been to the Curragh as well. We can have a look at that performance last time.
This was a good run at the Curragh. The winner stole away with a very valuable handicap that day, racing alone on the far side. There are a pack of horses fighting out the places. He travelled really well, battled on willingly. In short, JM Jungle is peaking again. He's 0 from 10 since his win at Goodwood last year, but there's no reason to think he won't run well. Yeah, this is a very encouraging run. Yeah. Shows he's absolutely been brought to the boil, I think, for Tuesday afternoon.
OK, Democracy Dilemma, you've already mentioned in dispatches, Graham. He's got quite a nice profile of late, hasn't he?
Well, we talked about his speed being blunted in soft ground last year at Goodwood. Have a look at him at Epsom in the dash. Also have a look in the backwash at a certain grey horse called Lord Ridderford, who didn't really shine on this occasion. There he is.
Wasn't he quite slow away? He just didn't fancy it, did he?
Just out of form at that point. Yeah. By contrast, Democracy Dilemma shows brazen speed on the near side, just gets nutted late on, but this is what Democracy Dilemma is good at, and his latest run at York, John, was very solid.
Yeah, him and Tattersall will be real trailblazers in this race, and I think both of them will stick around maybe. Certainly Democracy Dilemma's got a nice draw as well to run a good race.
Shall we have a look at Fair Wind? Fair Wind winning at Goodwood, beating Dream Composer earlier in the season. Took a very recent form boost yesterday, didn't he, Graham?
Yeah, Al-Bashir, the horse he beat, came out and franked his Ascot form. This is him earlier on in the season. Significant this. I pleaded with our producer for a late video insert here. That tells you that I like Fair Wind, and when you have a look at this performance, you'll see that he's a really progressive stalk and pounce sprint handicapper. This was a good performance that was franked by Dream Composer winning the Dash, John, and at Ascot last time, he continued his progression.
He certainly did, and as we've already touched upon, that Ascot race has worked out very well. If the likes of Tattersall or Democracy Dilemma really do burn things up early, he'll just be sitting 3 or 4 lengths off the pace and can pounce, and he definitely goes in the numbers for me.
I can see it, and his trainer said after that Ascot success he's got a fair bit of untapped potential. We might see that on Tuesday. Where in your numbers is Fair Wind?
There's a few favourites of mine here. Democracy Dilemma, JM Jungle, Rocking Ends for Vincent Holt, come calling late. But the moment I saw Fair Wind win that race at Ascot, I thought, this is a horse who's on the up. I think he's only had 11 races. He's still getting better. The form from Ascot looks solid. Fair Wind on top from 1, 7 and 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go with JM Jungle on top to build on that run at the Curragh and also to frank that form from last year when, of course, he ran so well. Slightly different ground conditions, but he's very versatile as far as that's concerned. Fair Wind in there for second, the 4. Tattersall and Democracy Dilemma, both horses will be on the speed, but they're both talented and potentially progressive performers, so they'll get good runs as well. So 7, 4, 9 and 1 for me.
I could just sense that egg in the face moment when Lord Ridderford wins it.
Yes,
again.
Absolutely. 100%.
Again, and he'll go off a great price again, and this time next year we'll be saying he can't make it 5.
And I'll oppose him again.
And then we'll oppose him again. I'm going to oppose him. We're going to go Rocking Ends under Vincent Ho, the trainer Tom Clover doing a great job with this horse. But don't be surprised if that old grey wins again. We revisit the 2-year-olds again for race 6. It's a maiden. It's run over 1,200 metres. The off time locally 4:45, and it is the straights 1,200 metres as well. Right in front of the grandstands. And I tell you what, it's had some quite checkered prices as regards the winners in recent years. 7-4 favourite, 5-4 favourite, 15-8 favourite, all fine. And 2017 chucking a 100-1 shot who won it. Blue Pinatubo, by the sire who won the vintage on this very day 5 years ago, is there. Carados has got a couple of runs under the belt. So too is Jouncey. We go down to the likes of Speed of Margid, who's going to be making the debut, son of Mason, all the way down to Wheels of Fire and Whitechapel Road. Graham, let's have a look at one of those that's had a couple of starts, that being Carados, who has been gelded since last seen behind quite a good horse Principality, and this race has worked out all right.
He's got Goodwood form, 3rd here and 2nd here. The horse who beat him here, Principality, is pretty useful. The 3rd, the 4th and the 5th, Nick, John, have all won since, so this was a pretty warm contest. My slight worry about him, John, looks a bit fiery. Puts a lot into his races quite early in the piece, and I wonder if that might be a habit that just slightly holds him back. I think he'll run well, might be 1 or 2 to beat in mind.
Yeah, he's clearly sweated up. This is a tricky race, obviously, with so many of these horses that have not run. Interesting stat for you, though. Last 10 runnings of this race, 8 have been won by a horse that either led or was just off the back of the speed. So Carados certainly has the right run style for this. Obviously, there are so many unknowns as well, but that is one known. Carados will go well.
And another trend, practically every running of this race goes to a lightly raced horse who's already shown promise. Newcomers tend to struggle.
OK, one that's showed a bit of promise is Jouncey. Yes, there would have been more expected by way of the market price last time, John, but this was Kempton when beaten 2nd by a horse called Time Sandals, who you can see in the stripes making his way into the race from in rear. That horse has run really well in the super sprints.
Yes, that was the point I was going to make. The form of this race in terms of subsequent winners hasn't worked out particularly well, but in terms of horses that have subsequently run very well, certainly has, and Time for Sandals has definitely franked the form. Lots of early speed from Jouncey in this race, then was taken back. Again, I think has the tactical speed to get into the numbers here.
Very well bred by Wootton Bassett out of Joyers, and he was sent off 5 to 6 favourite at Kempton, so they really expected him that day.
From the family of a certain horse called Frankel. Right, we've got an Irish challenger in the form of Ganas, who's trained by Joseph O'Brien, who's had 1 start so far. That was at Fairyhouse.
He was 18 to 1, not really fancied. He's by Harry Angel. This form looks pretty good, actually. He was over 7 furlongs, I think, this race, and he has a really good crack at it and isn't quite good enough. But the second and the fourth dominated the finish to a decent Curragh Nursery last week, so there's some merit to this form, and I think he's the type of horse with a bit more improvement in him who should go well.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance of running a decent race in for the minor positions. He might be a little bit further back, though, than one or two that we've mentioned, which might just count against him. But as I say, it's a tricky race to work out with so many imponderables.
Correction, you probably sensed a bit of uncertainty in my voice about the trip. That was 6 furlongs, not 7.
That's absolutely fine, Graham. We're not worried. The amount of mistakes that come from this particular side of the desk, I'm not too worried about any of that side. Graham, what about you? What are you going for?
In terms of this race, I'm happy that we probably found the winner. I'm not sure we got the right order. But let's have a look at number 14, Wheels of Fire. We haven't mentioned him. He made his debut at Windsor for the Hannon Stable, and he was unlucky. He looked for a bit of room several times, couldn't get it. I think there's plenty of improvement in him. 6 Jounce, he's already reached a level to take him pretty close in this. 3 Ganas, his form from Ireland last time looks pretty strong. And 2 Carados. 14-6-3-2, John, but without huge confidence.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Carados simply on the stat that I gave you about the run style in this race. I think it should go pretty well. Not saying it'll win, but I think it will not be too far away. Going to go as well in there for the minors with Jouncey. Maximus is probably going to be a bit far back in the run to really make much of an impression, but I thought that was a nice run last time out. And Val Sharrar is interesting too. Was very unlucky in the run at Windsor last time out. It wasn't a desperately good race, but it wasn't a terrible one either. With slightly clearer run, could go quite nicely too. But I'm quite keen that Carados will run a good race.
Okay, we have I Am Maximus won the Grand National. This is just I Maximus. I'd be happy if he wins at Goodwood. On Tuesday, trained by a man in Richard Hughes, who in his riding days was king of the castle at Goodwood. And in 2 jockeys so far, he's had Oisin Murphy and Ryan Moore to ride this horse. So he only goes for the good ones. And I hope I Maximus is the winner on Tuesday. Race 7 at Goodwood this Tuesday, big World Pool Day. We're working our way towards the back end of the card, but lots of interest, certainly, as we get to the last couple of races. Race 7 is a fillies handicap over 1,600 metres. Let's show you the track and trip for that. First time we could have 1,600 metres. A day before, they're going to be taking this in this very trip in the Sussex Stakes to feature on day 2 of the meeting, which you'll see live, and we will preview. This is, though, for the filly handicappers. 5:20 locally, 13 runners. These are they. Moon Spirits, down to the likes of Gray's Inn, strutting, interesting. Arasaig, Circa, who won just the other day, Queen's Reign, Mercury Day, Asta Verde, Surveyor, and down to Cheshire Dancer. I think this is quite a neat little race, Graham. What do you make of it?
It's a good handicap, and I thought I had 2 key trends or stats. I've only really got 1. Homework's never wasted. I came up with a theory that 3-year-olds have absolutely monopolised this race, guys. Then I realised there's only 1 older horse in this renewal. But the draw is definitely worth mentioning. Last year, I think, was an outlier, John. Remember, it was pouring with rain. 14, 15, 18, 9. But by and large, the low-drawn horses have had a really, really good say in this. So one of my stats is pretty hopeless. The other one, I think, might be quite meaningful.
I mean, that 4-year-old Moon Spirit is quite good, and it's ridden by the champion jockey, so she will see. She probably will. Right, should we have a look at some listed form at the track from last time or from last month? Strutting behind Lava Stream, who's turned out to be a rattling good one.
They've taken a little time to find this filly's trip, I think. She tried a 1.5 miles here at Goodwood and definitely didn't get the trip before this. She ran really well for a long way in a listed race here, John, and even better at a big price under Brit Aussie rider Rachel King went second in a big handicap at Royal Ascot. Go forward, filly, who's on the up.
Yeah, Lava Stream went on to get placed in the Ribblesdale, of course, and that was a tremendous performance from her. But from Strutting, yeah, it was an excellent effort at Royal Ascot because they went a really, really strong gallop in the Sandringham, and she was the only one to stick around from those on the front end. So gate 10's a little bit of a concern, as Graham mentioned. The reason last year it was such a high-drawn horse bias race was they went a really strong gallop. The closing speed was a real slow one and an outlier compared to previous runnings of this race. I think Strutting will get to the front and should be difficult to get past.
Let's go back to mid-June and have a look at Asta Verde, beating, among others, Imperial Express, who's gone on to win and actually lines up in opposition once again come Tuesday. This is reasonable form, isn't it, John?
Well, Imperial Express has won again since, John, but this is softish ground. it's not necessarily a literal form guide for Tuesday if the sun shines.
No, and Asta Verde, I think connections are on record saying that the soft ground is what this horse wants. So there's a little bit of soft in the description at the moment, a couple of days hence, but it might not be come Tuesday afternoon.
Third filly didn't look anything flash there, Imperial Express, but they went to Foss last next time, made the running with that, and she was much, much better.
OK, we've got others to have a look at. Mercury Day, does she come into your calculations, Graham?
Now we're talking. A 50 grand purchase from Rafe Beckett at the end of last season. She looks really well bought. It's only a small field, John, but it was quite a competitive race, and I really like the way that Mercury Day quickened to pick them off. She's getting better with experience at the moment. She's up £5. Conrad Allen is by no means a big name on the Whirlpool stage, but he's had 11 winners at 18% this season, and this well-bred Juddmonte cast-off is going forward at the moment.
I love a closing speed percentage, as you know, Graham, and this horse has passed them all when they were going at 106% of the average speed, so they were all quickening, and she's quickened past them. Got in my notes here, a lovely little performance. It certainly was, and she goes in the numbers,
Big
definitely.
chance.
I'm looking forward to this race. 13 runners, Graham, 6 of them last time out winners. In the case of well, 1 or 2 of them, there's some very good recent form on offer. Who do you like?
It's with huge reluctance that I've put Mercury Day in second here, but there's one filly I really like. I'm going to call her Cersei.
Yes.
The Richard Hannon filly. She's been unlucky more than once, and she's been running really well in solid company, so I like her chances. I'm equally keen on number 9, Mercury Day. I like this race, full stop. 7 and 9 on top of 6, Arisaig, who'll be a big price, but she's a hold-up filly with pretty good turn of foot. I think Jamie Spencer's been booked to ride. And 4, Strutting. Like the race, 7, 9, 6, 4, hoping for the Q.
Well, yes, I quite like this race too. I think it's a pretty good betting proposition compared to 1 or 2 others on the card. But Strutting there on top for me. Gate 10 is going to be slightly difficult to offset, but I think she can do it with her early speed. So she goes in there for me. Also going to mention Arisaig. Graham's put her in there. She was on the wrong side of the track in the Sandringham. Jamie Spencer will be licking his chops at the idea of riding this one, hopefully from a better gate position. Mercury Day in for third for all the reasons mentioned. And Imperial Express in there for 4th, horse number 12. So 4, 6, 9, 12.
Graham, I'm with you. Cersei, I'm going to go with you as well on that one. I loved her win over Battle Queen, who I rate highly at Newbury last time, so I'm with you in a competitive race. It is Cersei for me to win race 7. Best of luck, whichever you pick. Last race on Tuesday, this big Whirlpool Day, is a fillies handicap. It's a sprint over 1,200 metres. It is race 8, and we'll have had some fabulous stuff by that point. It is the HKJC Whirlpool British EBF Fillies Handicap, to give it its full title. Once again, the 1,200 metre straight sprint track in use. Big prize money as well. 14 runners. Let's have a look at the list of runners for this year. Aramis Gray, Katie Content, Star of Lady M, she's a star. Jumbo, further down to 60 Chic, Princess Shabnam. Dance and Romance, I think, is really quite useful and a good filly in the making. Cuban Melody, Balmoral Lady. Let's go back to last year, Graham, and have a look at Executive Decision winning this very race. Can she win it again?
She can, but I haven't got her in on top. Different ground this year, I think.
Yep.
This was very much on the dead side. She stalked, she switched, she stayed on strongly, she won with authority. She's only £3 higher this year, John. But in 2024, 6th, 4th and 4th. 4th at Epsom and Ascot. Is she right at her peak just yet?
I think she'll go pretty well. The 4th behind Misty Gray was in a race where she wasn't in the correct part of the track to really have much of an impact. And it was a decent run at Ascot last time. Gate 9, Safi and Jamie Osborne teaming up. She goes in the numbers, but there were 1 or 2 I like over her.
Agreed.
OK, either of them present in the next video, John, as we have a look at Alpha Kellenick's success at York. She's pretty good. She's not in the race, though. Katie Content finished in 4th. Star of Lady M finished in 5th.
She's a lovely horse, Star of Lady, and I'm glad they've changed the tactics from this York run. She was a bit too far back in the run, and I think from a more prominent position this time round here at Goodwood, I think she'll go well. And she was 3rd behind the Platinum Queen in the Alice Keppel Condition Stakes a couple of years ago, which is obviously a very solid meeting form. And I think from gate 12, which is a good draw on the 6 furlong track, she'll go well, Graham.
They both run all right here. I think they've both run better since. Katie Content ran really well in a warmish race at Windsor, and Star of Lady M, who's rugged, went to Newmarket and beat some fair horses narrowly.
Yeah, she did. We can have a look at that success. I actually spoke to the owners afterwards and rightly tickled pink about it. There's a whole book on this filly with the proceeds going to charity. Now, they and others might have the idea that she just about gets her over 1,200 metres but might be slightly better over shorter. What do you reckon?
Well, I think the 1,200 metres of Goodwood will be fine for her,
Yeah.
and obviously the Alice Keppel run from a couple of years ago kind of proves that. And just look at this VT, she was much closer to the gallop here, and that's really suited her. I mean, she ran very well. She's so versatile and consistent, this horse. It doesn't really matter, but I prefer her in that kind of tactical position she was in here, Graham.
Just fading late in the black colours. Radio Goo runs well, and in 6th, Kit Eye come back for another crack at Star of Lady M. They're all pretty closely matched.
Radio Goo was very well backed at York on Saturday. With that, we're at the end of the previous performances. So, for the last time, who wins?
Well, remember that stat about 3-year-olds dominating the previous filly?
I do.
There have only been 3 renewals of this, but 3-year-olds have absolutely dominated. I'm going to take a chance down at the bottom with a filly called Balmoral Lady, who's been progressing quite nicely. She gets in on a low weight. Her latest form is solid. 2, Katie Content is an old favourite of mine. I think she'll run well again. 1, Aramis Grey is super consistent, big weight, but has earned every pound of it. And 5, Executive Decision, who won this race and can come back and defend her crown with glory. But 14, Balmoral Lady on top in the nightcap.
Graham, super stuff. John?
I like another lady in this spot, Star of Lady M. I think she's going to be tough to get past from gate 12 down that straight 6 furlongs there at Goodwood. The final race of the day. Like Executive Decision to run a pretty similar race to that which she did 12 months ago. There's quite a lot of speed engaged in this race, or there certainly was at the 5-day stage. 1 or 2 have come out, but they're still going to be fast and furious. Jumbo, I think, will be able to cling on from the front part of the race. And Miss Bodacious didn't run very well last time out at all, but 2 starts ago she was good. I'm forgiving, and I want to give her a chance of finishing in a minor money.
That's one of your great traits, that. Forgiveness.
Yeah, Graham has it in abundance.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. When we get to that final race preview on, is it Thursday, the last day? Let's see how much forgiveness there is at that point. Gentlemen, for day 1, though, thank you very much indeed, Graham and John, who've guided you through what we can look forward to this big World Pool Day at Goodwood on Tuesday. For what it's worth, I'm a dance and romance fan, and that's just the equine. Number 11 to win the last race. Best of luck, whatever you're going for. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.